cloud.
That's it.
Well,
Okay.
I'm recording it to my computer, but I'll give you the file then.
Thank you. You have to put her back as co-host.
So you're trusting me. I don't know.
Melinda, there you go.
Well, why don't we get started if Julie's still fumbling around?
You chose host instead of co-host. She's co-host.
Julie,
Yeah,
want-
I'm listening.
you want to get started?
Yeah, go ahead. You can start everybody
Oh,
up. Good
oh, okay.
morning.
I'll start.
Let's get it
Well,
started.
welcome everybody. We're in going to have a very important topic today on Medicare update. There's been a lot of changes to the laws, and it's obviously really confusing. And we're relying on our guests to unconfuse us. Melinda is one of the people on my certified senior advisor, um, the journal board, where we find topics and authors for the journal. So those of you that are CSAs, you can get this magazine quarterly and you know all about it. It's actually won a bunch of awards for us because of people like Melinda. And anyway, she is kind of our resident Medicare expert, and we've invited her to join us today, and she's going to tell us all about Medicare.
Yep.
So take it away.
Woo! So exciting. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of use a myths um, format, I guess. I'm going to kind of jump in and to dispel some myths. I am going to assume kind of a very baseline minimal knowledge of Medicare because it's just easier to work from a very minimal knowledge, if that's okay with everybody. But what I'm hoping is, since you guys all have mics and things, is that you jump in and ask me questions as I go along. I'm hoping this isn't going to be like a massive webinar format where it's just me talking to myself for like however long. But let me do that. Let me share my screen. So I'm going to share my screen. Ooh, fancy. Look at her. All right. And then I'm going to push play here. And hopefully everybody sees 5 Medicare enrollment myths.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So just first and foremost, who the heck am I? As Skip said, I am a certified senior advisor, but probably the most important thing to know about me and my companies is we do not sell Medicare insurance. Okay. We do not sell Medicare insurance. I am not a commissioned agent. I make no monies by selling Medicare products. What I do is I work on a fiduciary fee for service basis like an accountant or an attorney. So when I work with clients, my clients pay me, their financial advisors pay me, and then I provide them with one-on-one guidance regardless of products. I can make recommendations, but I'm not selling anything. So the guidance is always in the client's best interest. All right. So that's really what to know about me. Myth number 1, and I am under no assumption that any of you believe this, but there is a myth out there that Medicare is easy. But talk to anybody turning 65 today or anybody who's turned 65 and enrolled in Medicare. No, they'll tell you Medicare is actually quite confusing. We have a ton of people turning 65 each year in this country now. And when it comes right down to it, 72% of these people are going to tell you, no, Medicare doesn't make sense to me. So what I hear all the time is, Melinda, if Medicare is so confusing, how do people get through it? Honestly, they throw darts at a board and just cross their fingers and hope for the best. Really, truly, that's what people are doing. They don't really know what they're choosing or why they're making the decisions they make. They're just doing the best they can, signing up for something and hoping it won't be bad. But one little Medicare mistake can literally cost a person thousands of dollars a year for the rest of their lives and even keep them from getting needed health care. That's huge. I mean, we think about Social Security and making Social Security mistakes, but when it comes right down to it, I think Medicare is worse because it can cost you just as much as a Social Security mistake, but a Social Security mistake isn't potentially going to keep you from getting cancer treatment when you need it. I mean, Medicare mistakes are really bad. We looked at our client base and created an average client experience. In this way, we then extrapolated our average client experience out to the national population. In this way, we've estimated seniors make about $6.4 billion worth of Medicare mistakes annually. And people say, you're making that up. And I'm really not. So I could tell you case studies all day long, real client stories, but quite frankly, we'd need alcohol. So I'm not going to do that. But let me give you a sense just really quickly. One of our clients was named John. John, not really named John, but we're naming him John. When John turned 65, he went into his HR department. And when he went into his HR department, he said, "Hi, guys, I'm turning 65. What do I need to do about Medicare?" A lot of people turn to HR professionals. Unfortunately, what they don't know is HR professionals think of Medicare as one of their least favorite topics of all. Most HR professionals really don't know anything about Medicare at all. So when John went in, the HR professional said, "Well, nothing, John. You don't need to do anything related to Medicare because you're still working. You've got the employer coverage. Bye." So John went away and thought everything was hunky-dory until about 10, 11 months later when all these bills started showing up. So the mistake John made was he worked for a small employer, less than 20 employees. When you turn 65 working for a small employer, Medicare is the primary payer, not the employer provided insurance. And that is regardless of whether you actually enroll in Medicare or not. So John effectively had no primary insurance. He was responsible for paying primary for all the medical bills he had incurred since turning 65. What's that going to be? $500 worth of bills? $50,000 worth of bills? I don't know. It depends on John's medical needs since he turned 65. That was number one. Number two, David and Sandy. This was a married couple we worked with. Sandy turned 65 first. She thought she needed to enroll in Medicare Take Action, but one day she went to her mailbox and bada bing, bada boom, her Medicare card was in the mail. Whoa, that was easy. So David, 6 months later, her husband David turned 65, and he thought that would be the same thing. He waited for his Medicare card to arrive in the mail, but his didn't come and it didn't come and it didn't come. Finally, he got on the phone with Medicare and said, "Hey guys, my Medicare card never came. I'm seeing a doctor next week. Can you send me another card?" And they said, "No, David, we can't. You're not enrolled in Medicare." What? So here was the difference. Sandy was already drawing Social Security benefits before she turned 65. That was the trigger for automatic Medicare enrollment. But Sandy and David didn't know that that was the trigger for automatic enrollment. David was not yet receiving Social Security benefits, but again, didn't know that he had to take action to get enrolled in Medicare. David is now outside of his initial enrollment period. He doesn't qualify for a special enrollment period, so he gets to wait for the general enrollment period, which happens January through March of each year. What is he going to do for health coverage until he can actually get Medicare coverage to begin? I don't know. And depending on how long it took him to actually get enrolled in Medicare, he might have a late enrollment penalty for the rest of his life. Okay, that's not fun. This is a biggie. This is what I call a doozy of a case study. And the sad thing about this is when this first happened to our client, we thought, "Oh my gosh, this is the worst thing we've ever seen." Since then, I now have 4 clients who've done exactly this. So let me tell you what Jane did. So when Jane was 65, she didn't do anything related to Medicare. In her situation, that actually wasn't a problem. She was working for a large employer, had health coverage. She could delay. Her problem came was when she was 67. Her employer came walking in one day and said, "Jane, I'm really sorry. We have to let you go." Oh, that stinks. Jane went on the company's COBRA coverage. To Jane, this was the same employer-provided coverage she had always had, just more expensive. She never thought about the Medicare implications there might be from having COBRA after the age of 65. Why would you? It's the employer provided coverage that you've always had. Yeah. Jane did what we call flying under the radar. For the first 10 months she was enrolled in COBRA, she didn't see any doctors, have any medical procedures. She had no clue she was in deep doo-doo. Then in the 10th month after being enrolled in COBRA, she actually wound up in the emergency room. This is when all heck broke loose because Jane in the emergency room visit got a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. That's a bad day. That's a really, really bad day. But her day was about to get even worse because 20 minutes later, the hospital administrator comes in and says, Jane, do you know you don't have health insurance? What do you mean? I gave you my COBRA card. I have health insurance. I have COBRA. Jane, did you get enrolled in Medicare? No, because I have COBRA. Jane, you don't have any health insurance. All right, so here's the rule. After the age of 65, when employer provided coverage is no longer related to active employment, whatever coverage that is becomes secondary to Medicare, regardless of whether you've actually enrolled in Medicare or not. Jane had no functional health insurance, even though she was paying $1,500 a month in COBRA coverage. Nobody was going to pick up her new cancer bills. Because Jane flew under the radar for 10 months, she no longer qualifies for a special enrollment period. She has to wait for the general enrollment period, which was January. Her cancer diagnosis came in May of that year. So May until the soonest she could get Medicare coverage in place, February 1st, she has no functional health insurance to deal with stage 4 cancer. Cancer treatments are typically $20,000 to $30,000 a month. These are awful, awful Medicare mistakes. And as I said, I now have 4 of these. One of these, I just had an investigative reporter do a story on for Barron's. Basically, she got bad information from Social Security. Social Security led her into this situation where they have $250,000 worth of unpaid bills because of the guidance they received from Social Security. You have to get the government to tell you, oh, we messed up. Oh, we'll fix that for you. It's not going well, which is why we did a Barron's story. Anyway, so this isn't good. So why is this happening? Well, the reason it's happening is because we are literally forcing people turning 65 or older than 65 to become Medicare experts simply to enroll in the program. People spend hours trying to make heads or tails of their Medicare options. Government tries to help. They're going to send everybody who turns 65 a handy dandy guide. They're going to send them a handy dandy guide called the Medicare and You book. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this book, but this handy dandy guide is 127 pages in length. Financial advisors can't get their clients to read 4-page financial reports, 2-page financial reports. What do you think people are going to do when they get a 127-page guide about Medicare? Most people throw it out. So obviously that's not working really well. So where else are people supposed to turn for help? A lot of people do try the Social Security Administration, like my client who got bad information. But the truth of the matter is Social Security by itself has 2,700 rules and thousands of codicils for those rules. But regardless of whether you want to talk about Medicare or Social Security, there's only one general phone number to call. You get who's ever up next in queue, regardless of what they actually know about Medicare. It is very common now that people get flat out wrong information about Medicare from Social Security. And again, what are you going to do? Sue the government? We're trying. We're trying on many fronts. Right now, I have a 100% success rate in doing the process to get the government to admit mistakes, but it is a long, painful process. And we're still working on that case that was featured in Barron. So, and it was Social Security, be very cautious of. So if Social Security and the Medicare booklets aren't working for you, quite frankly, where are your clients supposed to turn for help related to Medicare? And that's the problem. They know they can turn to insurance agents, but they know that. They're trying to find people that they trust first to provide them with meaningful, trustworthy guidance before they go into a sales conversation. So they're turning to doctors and nurses, HR professionals, CSAs, financial advisors, estate attorneys, trade unions. Unfortunately, most of these professionals, what do you want? You want help with Medicare? No, leave, go someplace else. I'm not doing that. So I'm not my job. I make no money. I don't want to do that. So seniors really have no choice but to turn to insurance agents. Now, it's not that this is a bad idea. It's not that it's bad. So please don't hear that I'm saying insurance agents are bad. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the business of Medicare insurance, the profit models are not designed with the consumer's best interest in mind. If you were to look at a chart, you will see that beginning in 2010 to today, there has been a meteoric rise in the number of Medicare beneficiaries choosing what we call Medicare Advantage plans. And it's not necessarily that this is bad again, but the reason I want to bring this up, it's not that it's bad, it's that the money can influence recommendations. If you look at the money, if you follow the money, you can see how much money insurance companies make based on the type of insurance. If they're selling an individual marketplace plan or an employer plan or a Medicaid plan, the insurance companies will make about $750 to $1,100, say, per plan member per year. But if that insurance company sold a person a Medicare Advantage plan, they are making almost $2,000 a year off that person. That's huge differences in margins, which is why you see so many Medicare Advantage commercials. Now, they share that love with insurance agents. So if an insurance agent in their initial commission is selling a Medicare Advantage plan to a client, they're going to make about $705. If they sold a Medigap policy instead, that agent's going to make $483. This may not seem like a lot of money, but it does compound over time. Medicare supplements, Medigap policies, stop paying renewal commissions after 6 years. Medicare Advantage plans never stop paying renewal commissions. So potentially you're looking at over a lifetime of renewals, $8,000 in commissions versus $3,300. You tell me, if I'm a Medicare insurance agent, what I want to sell my clients. And it does make a difference, which is why I showed you that chart in the beginning. More and more people are choosing Medicare Advantage plans. It's not that Medicare Advantage plans are bad or insurance agents are bad, but ultimately what it means is that Medicare, follow the money. Medicare insurance agents, Medicare insurance companies are incentivized to promote one type of product over another, regardless of what actually may be in the best interest of the consumer. It's just
Melinda, can you explain the difference between Medicare Advantage and Medigap?
Yes, I will do that. That is actually one of the next things I'm going to be doing so that you can understand that. But to qualify an insurance agent, you want to ask questions. Do you sell Medicare Advantage Part D drug plans and Medigap policies? What is your sales ratio? How many Medicare Advantage plans do you sell for every Medigap policy you sell? Pay attention to the sales conversation. So these are the key things to actually showcase how to pick an insurance agent. All right. Let me go forward to answer that question. So people think, this is the myth, you can change the type of Medicare coverage you have during open enrollment. No, you can't necessarily change the type of coverage that you have when you first enroll in Medicare. It can often become a permanent decision. To answer Skip's question, what's the difference? So we say step number 2 of Medicare enrollment is called choosing a Medicare path. The first step of Medicare enrollment is timing. Do you enroll in Medicare at age 65 or do you delay? After you determine you need to fully enroll in Medicare, the next step of Medicare enrollment is choosing a path, choosing the type of coverage that's best for your unique needs. Clients can have up to 5 types of Medicare coverage, 5 paths: original Medicare with a Medigap policy, Medicare Advantage, federal employee health benefits, retiree coverage, coverage through previous employers, and then military coverage. Regardless of which path a person chooses, there are pros and cons of each path. But more importantly, understanding that when you choose a path, you may never be able to change your mind later in life. So this is the primary 2, original Medicare versus Medicare Advantage. All right, so the path of original Medicare first. When you choose the path of original Medicare, we put the Capitol building in the background. The reason why is because the government is your health insurer. Please hear those words because they are very strange words to hear. The government is your health insurer. The government decides what healthcare services are covered or not covered. The doctors decide whether they will accept Medicare or not. There are no quote unquote networks. It's just, will the doctor accept Medicare or not? That's actually leads me to one of the biggest benefits, I believe, of choosing original Medicare is the fact that you can see any doctor that accepts Medicare. You may live in Wisconsin or California or Florida, but then travel to New York, Connecticut, Alaska, Hawaii. Wherever you go in the United States, you can see any doctor that accepts Medicare, go to any hospital system that accepts Medicare, including Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Johns Hopkins, MD Anderson. That's a big deal, a lot of freedom and flexibility. Now, if you were to choose this path, you get started by enrolling in both Part A hospital coverage and Part B medical coverage. Technically, you could throw up your hands and say, I'm done. I'm enrolled in Medicare. I'm not doing anything else. You could technically do that, but then Melinda is going to haunt you. Ooh, don't do that. Sorry, I amuse myself. All right. The reason you don't want to do this is because of the costs. Contrary to popular belief, Medicare is not free. If you have only Part A and Part B, you will pay 20% of every doctor bill, surgical bill, lab, surgery, diagnostic, preventative service with no spending limit in sight. Ouch. So I don't want you to stop here. I want you to keep going. There are 2 pieces you add on this path, both provided by private insurance companies. The Part D drug plan helps to cover the cost of prescription medications. All Part D drug plans are provided by private insurance companies. No such thing as a government drug plan. The other piece you add is a Medigap policy. Medigap supplement, Medigap, same thing. Now, a Medigap policy is a very unique insurance animal. A Medigap policy is not health insurance. It is not health insurance. On this path, the government is your health insurer. The government decides what's covered and what's not covered. The Medigap policy has only one job: to cover the costs that Medicare would have left you paying. A Medigap policy has no say in what doctors you see, what healthcare services you get or don't get. No, not at all. That's the job of the government. So effectively, a Medigap policy is cost insurance. The Medigap policies, the insurance companies that provide these, are often known by names like United Healthcare, Humana, Aetna, Blue Cross Blue Shield. But again, it's not health insurance, because you will also find Medigap policies provided by Allstate, State Farm, Mutual of Omaha, Lumico, Old Surety, USAA. Those are not health insurance names. It's cost insurance. And the companies that provide this coverage cannot decide what costs they cover or don't cover. The federal government has standardized what costs they cover. They don't even have that choice. Medigap policies have to cover the costs per a federal government standardization. They don't have a choice. So the federal government, again, those standardizations, of course, they use more silly letters. Of course. So let me make it very easy for you. Plan G is greatest. Plan G is greatest, the greatest amount of cost coverage. Plan N is next. G, greatest, N next. And maybe some of you have heard about Plan F. Plan F is now failing. F for failing. You don't want necessarily Plan F. People older than 65 can potentially still get a Plan F, but no new Medicare enrollees, no people turning 65 or after the year of 2020 can get a Plan F anymore. So the people enrolled in Plan F, I'm just being honest, are getting older, sicker, and dying, and the risk pool is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Not what you want with insurance. So Plan G is greatest, Plan N is next. But to get a Medigap policy with no medical questions being asked, you have to have a guaranteed issue right. What the heck is that? All right. A guaranteed issue right is a period of time in which you are guaranteed to be issued a Medigap policy. Much easier when you say it like that. People have a guaranteed issue right once Medicare Part B begins, and then for 6 months. Part B begins, you have 6 months of guaranteed issue. Anytime in that period, you cannot be asked about your health, you cannot be charged higher premiums based on your health, and you cannot be denied coverage. After that first 6 months, you can be. They will ask you questions about your health. They can charge you more or deny you coverage altogether. Now, New York, Connecticut, and Massachusetts, those states are a bit different. But for the most part, 47 states, yes, you can become locked out of getting a Medigap policy. All in, this path essentially works like this. You pay a monthly premium for Part B, the Medigap policy, and the drug plan. Once you pay those premiums, after you pay the Part B annual deductible, $257, after you pay that deductible, you could be in the hospital for 4 weeks and not get another bill. It's a very predictable approach to receiving healthcare expenses and managing healthcare services. Your doctors are in charge. Very, very rarely will doctors have to get permission to go ahead with services from the government. Your doctors say you need something and Medicare covers it, you're good to go. Done. All right, so this is the cost chart, $185 for Part B. $164 is the national average. Medigap Plan G is greatest. The national average Part D drug plan premium is $36 a month. And then the Part B annual deductible is currently $257. So all in, you're looking at about $400 a month. That doesn't include prescription costs, but prescription costs are going to be regardless of path. You're going to face those. So that's original Medicare. All right, now we'll talk about the other path. So this is Medicare Advantage. The first distinct difference on the path of Medicare Advantage is now there's a corporate building in the background. There's no Capitol building. When you choose the path of Medicare Advantage, the insurance companies are in charge. They make the rules. And it is very, very important to understand that when you choose Medicare Advantage, you are giving up the government's version of Medicare. You are giving that up. Your Part A and Part B card will not get you any hospital or medical services. You don't need to carry around your Medicare card. It won't get you anything. All right. Now, just to confuse everybody in the room, though, you still have to be enrolled in Part A and Part B through the government. Why? You have to be enrolled in Part A and Part B so that monies get transferred from the government to the private insurance company. The goal of the private insurance company then is to keep as much of that money as they can. It's just how it goes. So you get hospital and medical services through the rules of the insurance company. You don't have Medicare through the government anymore. Now, there's a couple things that make this path so attractive to people. First, that the plans roll in drug coverage. There's no need to go get a standalone drug plan. That coverage will be rolled in very often to the package that you get. The second thing that makes Medicare Advantage plans so attractive is 5 words. Here we go. This is 5 words. $0 in monthly premiums. $0 in monthly premiums. I did not say free. Free is 1 word. Believe me, if the insurance companies could say 1 word in their commercial rather than 5, they would. But they can't because the plans are not free. So don't translate $0 in monthly premiums into free in your head. Don't do that. All right. The second thing that makes these plans so attractive is free dental, free vision, free hearing, free gym membership. Get all the benefits coming to you. Do I have his picture? I don't think I have his picture handy, but I used to carry around a picture of Joe Namath. Thank God Joe Namath is off the air and for Medicare Advantage plans. He's now selling hearing aids. So anyways, you can't get rid of Joe. He's still selling hearing aids. Now, before we get too excited, we need to understand, yes, truly 98% of Medicare Advantage plans do add extra benefits that you do not get on the path of original Medicare. Dental, hearing, fitness, vision benefits. These are very, very common on Medicare Advantage plans. But when I say free dental to normal human beings, they get the wrong idea. Free dental on Medicare Advantage is not what people think it is. I say free dental to people and they think, oh, that'll be awesome. Whenever I need crowns or bridges, extractions or dentures, I'll get what I need. No, that is not what we are talking about. When it comes to free dental, you have to understand what plan limits are. Plan limits put a cap annually on the total maximum amount of benefit you will get. When it comes to free dental, 60% of Medicare Advantage plans in this country cap dental benefits annually at less than $1,000. So people think crowns, bridges, extractions. Heck, you're not even getting 1 free crown. 1 crown is $1,200 to $2,000, depending on where you are. So just temper those expectations. And the free eyeglasses? Yeah, the last time I got eyeglasses, they were about $500. $160 is a nice discount, but it's not helping me see anything. So the reason that I bring this up is because we have shifted. These freebies have shifted the conversation in this country. People get so focused on getting their free benefits and their free gym membership that they may never use that they forget to ask the important questions. What happens if I get cancer? What happens if I have a stroke or a heart attack? Will I be able to go to the hospital that's just down the street, or am I going to have to drive 2 hours across town and then wait 7 days before I can get the surgery that my doctor says I immediately need? I don't know.
Can I make a comment about the vision?
Yes.
Remember that the vision is kind of actually 2 parts. You have the kind where you do a yearly glucose test in which
Glaucoma.
Medicare
Yep.
that.
Yep.
And then you have one for eyeglasses, and that's private insurance. So there's a difference between the two.
Right. Medicare covers glaucoma, macular degeneration, cataracts. So Medicare covers that. So any medical conditions of the eyes, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, can I see at a distance? Can I read this book?
Yeah.
So Medicare doesn't care. Medicare doesn't care about those things.
They can't see it that way.
Right? They don't care about whether or not you can see until you walk into a wall. and then break your nose. They care about that. So anyways, so please remember why any of us have health insurance when making a decision about healthcare. Now, to use the package of Medicare Advantage, you have to follow 3 critical rules. Okay, rule number 1, networks, 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 networks. Now, everybody's pretty much familiar with what are called PPO plans. PPO plans mean that you get the best price by seeing in-network doctors, but you have the ability to go out of network, and you'll pay more, but you can go out of network. So when they hear Medicare Advantage plans have a PPO, oh, that's great. I'll be able to see any doctor I want. Hold on. No. What people don't understand is that providers who are out of network have no legal obligation to take out of network coverage. In Medicare Advantage plans, we are seeing this all over the place as of 2024. This article was updated October 25th, 2024. 30 health systems across the country now basically will not take Medicare Advantage in or out of network. Take your plan someplace else. This has been updated to 39 systems today. You guys said you're predominantly in California. Scripps is a huge one. If anybody's in Southern California, Scripps will not take any Medicare Advantage coverage at all. Go somewhere else. Mayo Clinic is a big one. If you want to use Mayo Clinic at if you want to use Medicare Advantage at Mayo Clinic, you better have a United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan. If you have any other kind of Medicare Advantage plan, they won't take you. So beware. Networks can also change at any time. As this shows, October was 30 plans, December was 32, January's 39. I don't have all of February yet. So networks can change at any time. Rule number 2, prior authorization. What this means is your doctor may say you need services, surgeries, chemotherapy, but ultimately your doctor is not in charge. Your doctor has to get permission from the insurance company before you can go ahead with services. If you go ahead with the service without getting prior authorization when required, you pay the whole bill, regardless of whether that bill is $20,000 or $200,000. It's yours to pay. The sicker you are, the more you are going to need prior authorization. In fact, if you look at the chart, 99% of Medicare Advantage plans require prior authorization for skilled nursing facility stays, durable medical equipment, 98% for chemotherapy, 98% for hospitalization stays. You are playing a mother may I game. Prior authorization can take 7 days. If the insurance company then decides you ultimately don't need that, you appeal. Appeals can take 14 days. If they disagree again, now you're in a month-long, 2-month-long appeal cycle. Just be aware, that's how it goes. Also, this is a chart that's brand new, hot off the press for me. You can see prior authorizations. The blue line, which is barely visible, that's prior authorizations on original Medicare. In the entire country in 2023, there were 393 prior authorizations required on original Medicare. There were 49.8 million prior authorizations required on Medicare Advantage.
You said 393. I think you meant 393,000.
Yes, 393,000. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Versus almost 50 million on Medicare Advantage. So a 12,500% increase. So just be aware. Rule number 3, on Medicare Advantage, you are responsible for paying deductibles and copays whenever you use healthcare services up to the plan's limit. Those limits in 2025 are allowed to be as high as $9,300 in network, $14,000 in and out of network. Plans in California, since there's so many California people on, are typically a lot smaller. But in California, your preponderance of Medicare Advantage plans are HMOs, meaning you have no ability to go out of network, and your networks in California are tight. So beware. All right. So this path is literally the mirror opposite of original Medicare. Remember, original Medicare, you pay monthly premiums and then have little or no additional out-of-pocket costs for healthcare services. This path, you pay no monthly premiums for the Medicare Advantage plan. You still pay premiums for Part B, but you pay often no money for the Medicare Advantage plan, but you pay every time you use healthcare services. And if you don't follow the rules, you pay everything. No spending limit applies. So on this path, I didn't update that. Sorry. It's supposed to be 185 to unknown. That's the Part B premium this year. So 185 for Part B, but then it depends ultimately on the healthcare services you need. I don't know what you'll actually pay at the end of any given year. Are you staying in network or going out of network when it's not allowed? Are you getting prior authorization or are you going ahead with services without it? How many healthcare services do you have? What are your copays like? I don't know. The reason that this decision is so important is because if people had their choice, what we would do is we would go Medicare Advantage while we are still healthy. Then when we're no longer healthy and need a lot of healthcare services, we'd go to original Medicare. The problem with that plan is in 47 states, including California and Florida, as soon as you choose your path and head in one direction or the other, an earthquake happens behind you. Now, if you decide you don't like the path that you're on, well, you can't just willy-nilly switch. You'll fall into that chasm. You have to wait for a bridge to open. Bridges show up between October 15th and December 7th during Medicare's open enrollment period, or January 1st through March 31st for Medicare Advantage's enrollment period. But even then, you can't just go across back and forth. No, it's like bridges from the United States to Canada. There are rules, and it depends on where you start. If you start on the path of original Medicare with a Medigap policy, it is very easy, almost scarily so, to go to Medicare Advantage. Just cross. But if you are on the path of Medicare Advantage and want to go to the path of original Medicare, that bridge may be closed to you. Because yes, you can have A and B, but will you be able to get a Medigap policy? It will be based on your health at that time. And very often people only want out of Medicare Advantage plans when they have cancer and can't see the doctors they need. They're facing prior authorization restrictions. They're seeing all sorts of bills. That's when people want out, and that's when they can't get out. So does that make sense? Are we doing good so far? Okay. Good. All right. So let me just iterate this part. It's also a very common myth that once you're enrolled in Medicare, you're done. Oh, the number of people who literally set it and forget it is astounding. Only 30%, 3 in 10 people actually review their coverage each year. And this is unfortunate because when people don't review their coverage each and every year, they are essentially giving a blank check to insurance companies. And I see it right now. January through March, I really loathe this time of year because inevitably I am getting emails from past clients saying, Eliquis used to cost me $20 in refills costs. It's now costing me $800 a month. This is criminal. What happened? Your plan changed. Your plan changed during open enrollment, but you let it auto renew, and now you're going to pay for it. And literally, people say this all the time. I'm happy with my plan. My plan worked really well for me this year. Why would I waste my time trying to review it? Well, that plan that worked for you this year could change everything about that coverage for next year. Plans from year to year can change premiums, deductibles, out-of-pocket copays, the medications covered or not covered, the spending limits, the pharmacy networks, the provider networks, and the restrictions that you have to go through in order to get your medications or healthcare services. All of this can change while the plan still keeps the same plan name. Our company's record is a woman who saved $235,000 by changing drug plans for 1 calendar year. This last year, our record was a gentleman who saved $148,000. This is no joke. Plans can absolutely change. Even if your medications don't change, your needs don't change, the plan can change out from under you. It's made super duper more important with the Inflation Reduction Act that put a $2,000 out-of-pocket spending limit beginning this year. As of this year, yes, all medication copays are capped at $2,000. So people have this false sense of security. But just because a person's costs are capped at $2,000 doesn't mean the medications are magically going to be free. Let me explain what I mean. So Medicare open enrollment is more important than ever because of how it's shifting the costs. So sorry, this is repeating, but basically what we used to have was a 4-stage structure. In Part D drug coverage, we used to have people go through 4 payment stages during the year: the deductible stage, the initial coverage stage, the coverage gap stage, notice the donut hole, and then the catastrophic coverage phase. But with the advent of 2025, both the catastrophic coverage phase and essentially the coverage gap phase both disappeared, meaning now that a person's out-of-pocket costs are essentially going to be capped around $2,000 a year. But that doesn't really mean much of anything, because that we're not asking. Okay, it does mean something. It means a lot, actually. But we need to understand who is going to pick up those costs, because after $2,000, those drugs don't become free. Somebody has to pick up those costs. Who's picking them up? Before 2024, after a person hit a catastrophic coverage threshold of about $7,000, $8,000, the consumer picked up 5% of the cost. Medicare picked up 80% of the cost of drugs after the catastrophic coverage limit, and Part D drug plans picked up 15% of the cost. Now, here in 2025, there's been a huge expense shift. Medicare now expects Part D drug plans after a $2,000 spending limit is going to pick up 60% of the cost of medications, when they used to have to pick up 15% after an $8,000 spending limit. Think about that. That's the equivalent of a multi-billion-dollar hit to insurance companies. They're not going to just take this sitting down. So what we thought was going to happen was that premiums for all plans were going to increase overall. Because of a last minute shifting that the government did before election season, elections change a lot of things. The government immediately put into place a Part D premium stabilization demonstration, which actually helped to keep premiums lower rather than skyrocketing. So that actually didn't happen. But we could expect that to happen in the years to come, because we don't have an election next year. So I actually expect that the premium stabilization is going to go away, and we're going to see premiums jump up $35, $40 per plan per year. The second thing we're seeing is increased cost sharing. So up to the $2,000 limit, you are going to see more costs. So whereas Eliquis used to have a $47 refill cost, you're now going to have a 25% coinsurance of the retail cost of the medication, taking essentially your copay from $47 to $137. So more cost sharing. Plans were dramatically discontinued in between 2024 and 2025. There used to be about 24 plans in all markets. Now we are seeing 14 drug plans in markets in 2025. But this is really where it matters. And this is what makes open enrollment so critical now. So please, please, please hear this. Dropping medications from the plan. The $2,000 spending limit only applies when your medications are covered by your Part D drug plan. Medications that were covered last year are not guaranteed to be covered this year or next year. Formularies can absolutely change. And in fact, if we look at the rules, Part D plan formularies must include at least 2 drugs from the most commonly prescribed categories and classes. At least 2 drugs means 2 drugs. Doesn't have to mean 4 or 10. It can mean 2 drugs. In the most commonly prescribed categories and classes doesn't mean all categories and classes. It means the most commonly prescribed ones. So the plans have a lot of leeway to pick what drugs they want to cover, and we see this. So what this chart is showing you is it's showing you among the most common 9 diabetic insulins, okay? 9 diabetic insulins, Humalog, Novolog, those sorts of things. 50% of Part D drug plans do not include 5 to 8 of the most common 9 insulins in their formularies in 2025. 50% of Part D drug plans do not include 5 to 8 of the most common 9 insulins in their formularies at all. The $35 insulin spending, it doesn't apply if your insulin is not covered by the plan that you're on. The $35 insulin cap only applies if the insulin you're on is covered by your plan's formulary. So this is exactly what we're talking about. And we saw this incredibly this year, that plan selection has become very individualized. You take a look at the medications that you have, and the goal is to align it with the drug plan that best covers those medications. Don't do what your spouse does because it's easier. Unless you take exactly the same medications, that's a really bad idea. Look at your medications and make sure that you are aligning it with the drug plan that best covers those medications. So there's a lot of different ways for people to get help. We're pretty happy this year because we have a brand new service called Hey Mo. That makes open enrollment very, very easy. It's an automated reminder and review service called HEYMOE. Mo stands for Medicare Open Enrollment, and it's $30 a year per person per year. But let me tell you, the gentleman who paid $30 to save $148,000 was really, really, really happy because he thought he might have forgotten about open enrollment, and so many people do. Anyways, so that's open enrollment right now. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions or concerns? I've kind of hit a half an hour, and I know that's kind of where you guys wanted to keep things.
Yeah, I wanted to point out that in the chat box, I put a link to a publication, Medicare and You, and this is for 2025. They come out with a new one each year, and they're actually geographically specific too. So the one in our area is for Northern California. They're free. You can also download them, and it's pretty important information in there. So you might want to actually get them for your clients to help them too. But
Yeah,
it's
the
a
only
good
sad
resource.
thing about that is it's usually 127, 130 pages in length. And
Yeah.
it's most people just, they look at the first couple of pages, their eyes roll into the back of their head, and then they throw darts at a board. I'm telling you, I see it over and over and over again. So, but it is a great resource if you're willing to invest the time and energy to really understand what it says. It's just most people don't. So, anybody have any questions? I mean, I could go into a lot more, but I won't.
Melinda, this is JD Stack.
Hi, JD.
You mentioned that you work on a fiduciary basis with clients on a fee for service.
Mhm.
How is that priced?
Sure. So, let me take you since here. Oh, Medicare mail. Sorry, this is actually my company's website. If I could get it here, go out. There we go. Let me make it bigger, or maybe not. Why
Share
can't I
screen.
make it bigger? because there we go. So what we do consultation services, and when we do consultation services, it's essentially on a fee for service basis. So the personalized Medicare consultations are a package price. The retail price is $6.99 for an individual. We have I-65 software. Software's for typically financial professionals, HR professionals, people who want a software tool to help guide clients through the Medicare process. But consultations through the I-65 software are discounted $100. But so $6.99 is typically, I could extend a $50 off discount to SRES people. So I will be more than happy to do that. If somebody comes to us and says, SRES was my referral, I'll knock $50 off. But yeah, it's a package price, and we go through, it's not, I need a t-shirt that says I'm not a 900 number. So we don't charge by the minute. My goal is to help people in the situation they're in get to a place where they understand what's best for them and why, and have peace of mind about it, along with next steps. So all of our roadmaps, all of our consultations end in a deliverable called a roadmap report. And a roadmap essentially looks like this, where a client is going to, like Judy Johnson is going to get, we recommended Blue Cross RX Essentials and Mutual of Omaha or AARP. And then we go through and we give Judy step-by-step instructions to get enrolled in Medicare A and B. We give her phone numbers and websites to get enrolled in specific drug plans or Medigap policies or Medicare Advantage plans. We give her specific instructions about how to get replacement Medicare cards if she loses hers, why we chose the plans that we did. And probably, I think the best thing about our roadmaps is at the very, and I don't know if I'm going to show it. I don't think I'm going to show it here. Nope, I stopped. But all of our roadmap reports, we show our work. So when we pick a drug plan for people, here, let me see. Let me see if I can find one. I want to show you like what I mean by that. Okay, hold on. I'm going to grab. Where'd it go? There it goes. Oh, no, that's a bad one. That was not going to show you. I mean, actually, this one. There we go. This one I'll show you. So this one will show you, for example, at the very end, we show our work. So when we recommend Medigap policies, you can see we did this during the consultation. We went and we scored things. And I showed you the good things, the bad things. We're having a discussion about this. How do you pick a Medigap policy when the benefits are the same, regardless of carrier? It's all about picking based on premium and how those premiums will increase over time. So how do you pick one? When we pick drug plans, wait, I gotta go forward. When we pick drug plans, well, this one's boring. This client didn't take any medications, but ultimately, unless you're not taking any medications, we don't care about the monthly premium. It's all about your total out-of-pocket cost. And pharmacies absolutely play a role in the total out-of-pocket cost you will pay. So we don't care what the monthly premium is. What we care about is your total out-of-pocket cost, the pharmacy, and the star ratings. And how your drugs are classified, the tier ratings, and will you need prior authorization or not. So we show our work, basically. That was the point of me saying that. So
You do a similar type of plan to review plans each year?
Nope. So for reviewing, we now do, because reviewing plans, because it was manual, and we can still do manual plan reviews, but typically people don't like it a ton because we have to charge $130 to review plans manually. That's why we built Hey Mo. Hey Mo, Mo stands for Medicare Open Enrollment. This is an automated reminder and review service for Medicare Open Enrollment. So what happens is Hey Mo automatically knows when open enrollment is. We automatically go out and compare all of your drug plan options for next year. We shoot you an email and a text saying, hey, JD, it looks like you could save $500 if you change from this plan to this plan next year. Do you want to do that? And you don't have to remember when it is. You don't have to struggle to try to figure out how to compare plans. Hey Mo's done it for you. And we've already proactively sent you the results and put you in the driver's seat. So, and we look at about 15 to 20 local pharmacies. We saved a woman this year. Probably about $1,200, not by changing drug plans, but by changing pharmacies to a pharmacy she'd never heard of. But it turned out it was right across the street from her current pharmacy. And it was a little independent one. And she was thrilled to change to a little independent and save $1,200. So, which is really nice because people don't think that changing pharmacies could save them that much money, but it can. It all depends. So, yeah, so that's how we tackle open enrollment now. It allows us to help a lot more people at a lot lower cost. So,
we got one question in the chat here.
Yeah.
Person retiring at the age of 75 enrolled in a basic plan, but no extra since, etc. Can you read it there?
Oh, hold on. Yes, I think I can read chats.
It's from Tammy.
All right. Okay. Scenario basic. Scenario. Person is retiring this year at age 65 and is enrolled in the basic plan, but no extras since still working and paying through work. Okay, want to retire July 1st. Should they decide their path May 1st? And if the person is healthy, no health issues, what's the best plan? Is that something what Hey Mo can calculate? Okay, so the person retiring at 75 this year, one of the first things that, I see being flagged is what are they enrolled in? Because unfortunately, people can get enrolled in Medicare too soon. So if the person is working for a large employer, for example, and is enrolled in Part A and Part B, we have a problem because that person will not qualify guaranteed for a Medigap policy. We're going to have to go through medical underwriting. If it's a small employer, less than 20 employees.
That's about 15 minutes, okay?
Okay, so a small employer plan, then you want to start making decisions 2 to 3 months before you want Medicare coverage to begin. Hey Mo is only right now for open enrollment. So Hey Mo does not help with Medigap plan selection. It's just, Hey Mo is literally for people already enrolled in Medicare to review their coverage during open enrollment. So, but initial enrollment, special enrollment, you want to start about 2 to 3 months before retirement, before you want Medicare fully in place, and then make those decisions in 2 to 3 months beforehand for an enrollment date of whatever it was said, July 1st or whatever. And you can have Medigap insurance agents help guide you to pick Medigap insurance policies. Just make sure that that the agent will not try to steer you necessarily into something you don't want. We do through our Medicare consultations. This is absolutely something we go through. So typically in our Medicare consultations, we go through the 6 steps of Medicare enrollment. The 6 steps of Medicare enrollment are let me show you real quick. We go in our Medicare consultations, we always step a client through all 6 steps of Medicare enrollment. Timing is the first step. Do you enroll or do you delay? When you determine you need to enroll, then we go through the path. And when we choose a path, then we pick specific plans. So depending on which path was chosen, we'll either help the client choose a Medicare Advantage plan, or we'll help them choose a Medigap policy and a Part D drug plan, and we'll write that up. Then in the roadmap report, we give our clients step-by-step instructions to get enrolled in whatever they need. So in this case, for example, Part B, how do you get enrolled in Part B? We'll give step-by-step instructions. Then we give phone numbers and websites to get enrolled in specific plans. And then technically a person will be enrolled in Medicare after step 5, but not done, because each and every year for the rest of a person's life, they need to be reviewing their drug coverage each year. So that's why those are the 6 steps of Medicare enrollment. And you definitely want to follow those 6 steps and do those in order. So we do that during the consultations always, but consultations are very individual based. So typically what one person needs, another person will not need. I've got clients with federal employee health benefits. I've got clients with TRICARE. I've got clients, whatever they need, we go through the process, but it's very individual in terms of what the results are or where we stop or what we do. So.
What if you're already into the system?
You're already in Medicare?
If you're already in the system, can you consult with you in order to make adjustments to move forward?
So typically that's what we call an existing coverage review. Unfortunately, when it comes to Medicare, people in this country are sold something rather than actually taught what they're buying. So when it comes right down to it, people often don't know what they have or why they have it or what kind of changes they can make. So that's why we have an existing Medicare coverage review. And in that process, it's very similar to a personalized Medicare consultation for people getting enrolled. It's very similar in terms of price, but actually, I know this sounds crazy. Existing coverage reviews are usually harder than personalized Medicare consultations because very often people have made mistakes and didn't know it. And now we have to try to figure out plan B, plan C, plan D to navigate to the best endpoint, considering that some of those things are not going to be available anymore. So existing coverage reviews are really good, but yeah, they are the same price as getting enrolled for the first time, and it blows people's minds, but they're often harder. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate this. We're going to have to stop it here, unfortunately. If you have other questions or comments, you can contact Melinda directly, and I'm sure she'll be able to help you out. Next week is going to be the Village to Village movement with talking about the virtual retirement villages. That'll be good for you guys. And if you don't have anything earth-shaking right now, you guys can drop off the call. We have another call coming up right after this on the same thing, and it looks like 3 of us are here. So with that,
I'll just highlight as well, all of Melinda's information is on the bulletin, and it's on the bulletin that went out this week, and then it will be as well next week. And we will keep this information top of mind for our services as senior real estate specialists, because I think this is a hugely important aspect for us to know about, to talk about with our clients and even our own families. So thank you so much, Melinda.
You're welcome. And I will share that recording with Skip then. And Skip, you can pass it on wherever you need to, okay?
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.